Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Rowley, and I am the leader of the federally registered Communist Party of Canada. And with me is Adrian Welsh, the leader of the Parti communiste du Québec and a member of the Communist Party's Executive Committee. I should note that the Communist Party is the second oldest party in the country, founded in 1921 in Guelph, Ontario. Yesterday, a parliamentary subcommittee met with the CEOs of three of Canada's biggest and most profitable grocery chains to ask them about the skyrocketing price of the food they sell and the extraordinary profits they are raking up as a result. Their answers, which ranged from "it isn't that much" to "we're in business to make a profit," won't satisfy consumers, who are working people who are forced to pay these prices despite their declining wages, their real wages and living standards, because everybody has to eat. Food prices rose 10.2% last year and are projected to rise a further 5 to 7%, which will increase the price of groceries by $1,000 this year for a family of four. Loblaws profits rose 40% in 3 months last year, and another 10% in their most recent filings. Loblaws profits were so exorbitant that they raked in excess profits of $1 million every day of the year in 2022. Metro and Sobeys weren't far behind. But scandalous profits aren't limited to the grocery chains. The oil and gas companies increased their profits by $38 billion, or 1,000%, since 2019, by increasing the price of gas to $2 a litre last year, preparing the public for similar hikes this year. Mining companies saw a 700% increase in profits, while the banks raked in $57 billion. Corporate landlords who took advantage of the shortage of affordable housing and the absence of rent control legislation in Canada raised rents by 12.4% last year. In Atlantic Canada, they hit even harder, raising rents by 32.2%, and they're not done. They do it because they can, and that's the problem. Overall, after-tax profits increased by 59% to $456 billion in 2021, then jumped to an astonishing $523 billion just 6 months later. In the 15 most profitable sectors, after-tax profits grew by 89% in the most recent 12 months, compared to the 4 quarters before the pandemic hit. The Bank of Canada has raised interest rates 8 times in 11 months and said earlier this week that they're prepared to raise the rate again. Meantime, the banks, who raked in $57 billion in profits last year, have set aside $2.5 billion to cover expected mortgage defaults. This means the banks will seize the homes and the equity in them of many young and not so young people who scrape together a down payment using all of their savings, leaving them with nothing. The recession we're now in has been tipped in large part as a result of enormous household debt in Canada, the highest level of all the OECD countries. It's caused by high interest rates, high mortgage and housing costs, high credit card interest rates and debts, combined with falling real wages, down 2.5% last year alone after stagnating for previous 3 decades, and now large layoffs and growing unemployment. Well, none of this is secret, though corporate executives have done their best to downplay this enormous transfer of wealth from the pockets and paychecks of working people into the corporate vaults. It's all of this that the Parliamentary Committee could and should investigate, and that the government and Parliament must act to reverse. We call on the government and on Parliament to act now to protect consumers and all working people by rolling back and freezing prices on food, fuel, and rents, by rolling back and freezing interest rates, by raising wages, pensions, and enacting a guaranteed annual livable income, by expanding employment insurance to cover all the unemployed for the full duration of unemployment at 90% of previous earnings, by creating jobs, shortening the work week to 32 hours for 40 hours take-home pay, build value-added manufacturing and secondary industry, build 3 million units of affordable social housing for rent and for sale, enact rent control legislation covering all tenants across the country. End privatization, fund Medicare, education, public services and social programs, and transition to publicly owned renewable energy. Double corporate taxes, enact a windfall profits tax, and enact wealth and inheritance taxes on the rich. Fund municipalities. And finally, cut the military budget by 75%, withdraw from NATO, and call for a peaceful political settlement to the war in Ukraine. Canadian governments have implemented many of these policies in the past, including price rollbacks, wage pensions and EI increases, social housing construction, expansion and funding of Medicare, social programs, public services, and they need to do this today and more. They have the power to do it. What's lacking is the political will. Polls consistently show that these are the most important issues to working people: homeowners, tenants, women, seniors, students, workers, farmers, voters today. And the growing strike movement and actions by labor and social movements show that masses of people are moving into action to demand change. Parliament and the government must act now to curb corporate power and profits, and instead put people's needs before corporate profits and greed. The Communist Party is campaigning across Canada and winning strong and active support for these policies across the spectrum. A movement is building. Thank you.